Do all spies work for governments? You can turn back now, or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Here are the facts. World governments spy both within and outside their borders, monitoring communications and sending informants to gain the trust of various groups. There's no solid rule about who should be monitored. These groups could be anything that, in someone's opinion, threaten national security or the nation's stability. Food cooperatives, grassroots political communities, mosques, and more have all been targeted. While pundits debate the pros and cons of these tactics, there is one positive point. Earth's governments have some sort of regulation, some system of checks and balances that can, at least theoretically, prevent massive abuse. But what if governments aren't the only players in this game? Here's where it gets crazy. Private companies hire infiltrators too, and private contractors also carry out infiltration missions. Consider the story of Kara Schaefer. According to journalist Paul Demko, Schaefer joined an organization called the Student Farm Worker Alliance, a group that worked to push for higher wages in the agricultural industry. Something about her made members of the group suspicious, and they soon learned that she wasn't actually an idealistic college student. Instead, Schaefer owned a company called Diplomatic Tactical Service, hired by Burger King. At the time, Burger King and the coalition had an ongoing dispute about the wages of farm workers. After the news broke, 2 executives were fired. This is not the only example. Private security firms have sprouted up around the world in recent years, often owned or staffed by former members of law enforcement or intelligence agencies. This is not, in itself, illegal, but activists who have discovered corporate spies often allege that the spying crosses legal boundaries. In some cases, activists argue that the line between the corporations and the governments blurs, that several of the private security companies are committing acts of espionage with tacit governmental support. But is this a case of willful rule-bending or just a lack of oversight? Critics such as Gary Ruskin argue that espionage against nonprofit organizations subverts democracy, but on the other hand, it makes sense that a company would use any available legal means to protect its assets and image, and corporations can be victims of infiltration as well. Consider Google's 2010 accusation that the government of China hacked their databases to access the email accounts of human rights activists. When it comes to corporate espionage, whether it's legal, whether governments are assisting the firms, one thing is abundantly clear. The specifics of these operations remain something they don't want you to know.
These are some of the tools of your trade, weapons of democracy. Learn them well.